make some noise for...
I told him when I come back, we're going swimming. So, tell everybody thank you, Kirill. Скажи, дякую.
Дякую.
Не, английский.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, что? Very much. Еще раз.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Future president of Ukraine right here. All right. Greetings, everyone, and welcome. Sitting here with Jake Broe tonight, and we want to thank all of you for being here. Jake, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Greg. Good to be back on your show.
It's great, man, and thank you. And quite a day. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to spend the next hour, and I have a couple questions I'm going to ask Jake about really something he tweeted yesterday that I think is very interesting. Get a little bit of his thoughts on Iran, the strikes that just happened, and he and I were talking pre-live, and I think we have a very similar view on this. A little bit about American politics, and then we're going to focus on some Ukraine and Russia stuff. Vladimir Putin speaking today, and with all of the information coming out on the strikes in the Middle East, this one got pushed under the rug, but I have it, and I've translated it. So I want Jake to listen to it, you guys to listen to it, and see what your thoughts are. So appreciate all of you in the chat. Thanks to all the mods, and buckle in, grab your tea, and let's get going here. Jake, just in case, which probably not, but just in case anyone here that's never heard of you, what's your background real quick, and make sure you guys, his channel at Jake Broe, if you live under a rock and you don't know who this guy is.
I identify as a YouTuber, but I did serve on active duty for 6 years as a nuclear missile operations officer. I was in charge of the maintenance, security, and operations for the Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile system. That's the land leg of the nuclear triad. I got out of the Air Force in February of 2022, literally the exact same week that Russia invaded Ukraine. At the time, I had a YouTube channel of about 80,000 subscribers, and I was talking about trading options, just finance topics and credit card bonuses. And I made a one-off video just as a veteran, giving my thoughts and reactions to what was going on, because Russia invading Ukraine was the top story in the world. That video got a lot of views, and usually, you know, when you have a video that does well, you just make another one, and then make another one. And after 2 months, my channel more than doubled in size, and I realized I had more people watching me for my thoughts about Russia and Ukraine than about, you know, option contracts on Apple. So I told my original finance audience, I'll come back to you guys once the war is over. And that was 3.5 years ago. So I'm now over 600,000 subscribers. I'm on every social media platform almost. I post daily everywhere. My entire life right now is supporting Ukraine, helping to defeat Russia, and trying to make the world a safer place for everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, sir. And if you guys have not subscribed, make sure you get over there and subscribe to Jake Broe. All right, so we're going to start here. Last night, you and I were chatting on back and forth, getting the time and all that squared away, and I was making the thumbnail, getting everything ready, and I had my Twitter up and X, and I looked, and there's this image from you, and I looked at it, and I go, okay, we're definitely going to talk about that tomorrow night. And I know this was before so many things unfolded today, but we'll get to all of those. But I want to go back to your tweet last night, and I'll put it up here for everybody to see. You put this image up, and guys, if you're looking at it, you see the statement of Trump after the strikes on Fort Al. You see President Joe Biden, President George Bush, and you see President Barack Obama. I can tell you it's probably small if you're watching on a mobile device or an iPad, but the text under President Obama is when he was actually announcing the operation against Osama bin Laden. So another major event. So you put that up. Tell us the story behind it and your thoughts.
So that is the cross hall. The cross hall in the White House runs behind the Oval Office. And, when presidents give national addresses, this is a big deal. Whenever the president of the United States addresses America, because it takes priority broadcasting on all the major networks. It's on all of the cable news channels. It's all on the broadcast news channels. When the president gives a nationally televised address, this can reach 60, 70, 80 million people. And when Trump came out to announce that we had bombed Iran, I was like, why is the vice president, the secretary of state, and the secretary of defense in the shot? This is pretty weird because the vice president is not in the military chain of command. The secretary of state is not in the military chain of command. And I've never seen a president go to the podium with the secretary of defense basically holding their hand to keep them company. The whole purpose of the president is he is the decider. He is the sole decision maker who assumes the responsibility, especially when the military takes action. When the military takes action, American lives can be lost. I don't want to see any service members lose their life. In addition, the president is killing people. The president last night, 2 nights ago, made the decision to go to bomb these facilities, and I'm sure there are Iranian citizens who have lost their lives. But this is something that Trump has never felt comfortable with. Trump doesn't console the families of soldiers whose lives are lost. Trump does not welcome home the body of soldiers. Trump has a very uncomfortable relationship with the military because he's a draft dodger. Mm-hmm. He has never respected our men and women in uniform. He has never shown them the same deference and appreciation that other presidents have. He speaks of them as an extension of his own power. These are my generals, my admirals. These are my troops. Trying to politicize them, these speeches at West Point and Fort Bragg. So when I saw Trump go out there with these 3 guys, I know what's in it for J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio want to be on television as much as possible because they think they're going to be president in 2028. Those are the top 2 contenders when Trump is no longer president. But why would Trump want to share the stage with these 3 guys? Is Trump the kind of guy who just doesn't want to take credit for himself and he would rather put praise and accolades on his subordinates? And that's not what Trump does. In the Trump show, he gets all the credits. He is the sole genius. He is the one who can do anything. So when I saw that gathering, I said, 100%, these are the fall guys. If this gets worse, if things go poorly, Trump a month from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, if there's any blowback that the American people or his base are outraged by, he's going to say Pete Hegseth made me do it. This was Marco Rubio's idea. J.D. Vance really thought this was a good idea, and I'm not. I'm just the president. I just got here. What do you guys want me to say and do? Do you remember Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz? He's fired. He's already gone.
Well, I think Tulsi Gabbard will be calling him for a job soon.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard's going to be fired soon as well. Yes. Not because she gives bad advice, but because she's boring. The inside track criticism of Tulsi Gabbard, this is the quotes leaked. Trump said she adds nothing to any conversation. She's boring. She's not interesting. That's a reason enough for Trump to fire people. But when I saw those guys, I just said, Trump's scared. I can tell. He is not. He's not sure of what he's doing, and yeah, he wants other people to share the blame because he knows MAGA is not happy with what's going on.
I heard it in his voice. Gertis and I were live streaming when this was happening, and we live streamed it, and you could just hear the quiver. And now, putting that alongside with your thoughts there, why the guys are back there, the fall guys, this is completely makes sense. And, here's three other examples of presidents, and 2 were Democrats, and George Bush is a Republican. So you've got, 2 and 2. I mean, everything's the same, but you can see that is where we're headed. Now, what I looked at today is we know, and you guys that are here, a lot of you were on my live stream earlier, and we witnessed the Iranian strike back on the American base in Qatar. And 6 missiles fired to Qatar. We're still waiting for the final confirmation, but the bottom line is there was nobody there. The base was already empty. We do know that at least 3 of the missiles were taken out by air defense. Maybe 3 hit the base, or there were deflections after the air defense took them. We don't know, but we know that there were some hits there. Nobody hurt, nobody wounded. There's nothing there. 1 rocket fired over towards Iraq, and there were some shaheeds in the air, and then crickets. And we were waiting for a response from the President of the United States, because the news went out. He went in the Situation Room, and they were watching everything. And the more we watched it, and we were talking on the live, I said, you got 2 options here, but I think I'm leaning toward the other. This was just like a show to set the stage for next phases. So I don't see anything else, because what we're hearing now, we haven't heard from President Trump. In fact, the only thing we heard, his first statement, and this was just minutes after 15 or 20, I want to be completely accurate, 15 or 20 minutes after the strikes, you're waiting for him to say, okay, well, this is something here. No. He says the sites we hit in Iran were totally destroyed, and everyone knows it. Only the fake news would say anything different in order to try and demean as much as possible. Even they say they were pretty well destroyed. Working especially hard on this falsehood is Allison Cooper of Fake News CNN, Brian L. Roberts, chairman of Comcast, Johnny Curl of ABC Fake News, and always the losers of, again, Comcast, NBC Fake News. It never ends with the sleaze bags in the media, and that's why their ratings are at an all-time low, 0 credibility. Instead of saying, going back to what you said, Jake, and you were a veteran, and thank you for your service, but instead of saying, okay, there were some missiles launched at our American facilities today, and our soldiers are safe. Everybody's good. No, he comes out, and this is his first statement out, just ripping media. So it's disgusting to me.
I do believe that Iran coordinated this strike with the government of Qatar, knowing the government of Qatar would tell, obviously, the government of the United States. How many American bases or embassies are within ballistic missile range of Iran's borders? And it has to be at least 12. So why would Iran only fire on this one that, you're right, was basically empty? It was evacuated of any valuable resources or personnel. So Iran knows that they're in serious trouble. Iran was a paper tiger. Their economy has been horrible for decades, but their air force is now gone. Their air defense systems are gone. Israel controls the skies. We sent 7 stealth bombers over their country to bomb them, and they never saw it coming. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to shoot them down. So Iran knows that they're completely helpless, and they're teetering on the verge of collapse. I don't think the government of Iran is going to fall. Okay. There's a big difference between Syria and Iran. Syria had been suffering a civil war for a decade. There was an organized resistance or rebel groups being funded and supplied by Turkey. Syria, I think more people honestly should have predicted that was possible, even though that came as a shock to everyone last December. With Iran, sure, the people might not like the governments, but where is the organized resistance? Who on the ground is going to help any opposition movement to the inertia that the existing government already has? So for these clerics, for the ruling elite of Iran, they want to stay in power. They don't want to die. They don't want to be murdered by their own people. So they need to stop the hemorrhaging today, and maybe they'll have a fatwa and plan terrorist attacks in the future. But they wanted to fire back for some kind of propaganda win.
Save the face.
They could have launched ballistic missiles at all 12 different bases at the same time to cause more chaos and increase their chances of striking something of value. But this was just a symbolic retaliatory strike. Trump always counterpunches when anyone attacks him or he feels like he's being attacked. So he's going to say stupid things to just ratchet it up until Iran stops responding.
That's a wonderful analysis. I can't really disagree with it. It feels like and I hate to use the word feel because we want to work on facts, but it feels like that this is the way for the Ayatollah Khomeini to stay in power, everything to settle down. Okay, you've shown you can sling some missiles too. Let's back it down. Your nuclear sites are, if not destroyed, completely incapacitated. The only big question out there, and even the United States has asked it over the last 24 hours. Russia asked it today, straight to the foreign minister. I do know that. I saw the video. Where's the uranium? That's the only question that's out there right now. And I'm not sure if anybody knows. I mean, somebody knows, but.
Israel eventually will get the intelligence where the uranium is. Israel had the intelligence for everything, where all of Iran's leadership was, the facilities. So even if, stuff was secretly moved, it doesn't matter. It'll eventually be found, and then it's going to get burned off in some kind of missile attack by Israel at some point in the future. Or Israel will send in special forces to try and secure it and, take it out of the country. The United States is never going to I don't think Trump would ever put boots on the ground, but the United States will continue supporting Israel if Israel wants to put boots on the ground to secure materials or whatever.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's our update there on Iran. Honestly, I hope this finds a pathway to an end, because one of the major things right now, that, at least in my opinion, and I'm probably sure it's yours, I don't know until you answer this question, but a lot of attention is being diverted from Ukraine right now and what is happening there, and Russia is escalating significantly along the front lines. It doesn't mean what's going to be the result of that. And in addition, they're escalating their strikes on Kyiv. And I actually have the information that Kyiv released today. I can show you guys this here, not that one, this one here. This is actually the heat map of Kyiv. And if I take it from here and I'll go to this overlay, from that, you can see the river coming down the middle, and I'll show you guys this again. But even Ukraine today, and this is coming straight out from those guys saying, listen, we're being hit nonstop in Kyiv. And guys, this is actually looking from south to north. If you continue up that river there, you head straight to Belarus, but you also go up to Chernobyl, and you're not far from Chernihiv region, and then you're straight into Russia and Belarus. But this left side here, looking north, you're talking about the downtown area. You're talking about the Solomensky district. You're talking about Golosivsky district, and that is actually a huge area there at the park. And then you have the Shevchensky district. If I take it back to this view for everybody, we're talking about this region right here. And if you're wondering, okay, well, where's the actual downtown? Where did the Maidan happen and all of that? It's right here. So all the famous pictures, the statue that stands with the big sword hanging up is right there. It's all in this area. And right now, with so much attention diverted, I want to make sure we keep our attention on Ukraine. So I'm hoping that will adjust. I don't know about you, but it's tough right now in Ukraine. What do you see on the horizon? And I want to play the Putin video in a minute, but the Lindsey Graham Blumenthal bill with 84 signatories and all this aid that are sanctions and tariffs against Russia and China, and Lindsey Graham making that bold statement in Kyiv. Oh, boom. You are not playing your games anymore, Russia. And now we're June the 23rd, and we're looking at July. What's your feeling on that, or what are your thoughts on how we're looking to getting some help to Ukraine?
Ukraine and Europe are on their own. The United States is worthless. Ukraine and Europe, you cannot rely on. I mean, if something miraculously happens and Donald Trump allows Congress to do anything or chooses to sell weapons or anything, great, that's extra. But Ukraine and Europe, you have to do this. You have to win this war without the help of the United States. America is lost for the next 3.5 years. We are just going to go from one crisis to another crisis to another crisis. And Donald Trump is not going to take serious anything. He's not going to de-escalate anything. This is how he lives. Trump, his entire life, has lived in chaos, and this is where he thrives because he has no morals. So concerning the war, I just want to say there's two wars actually happening. There's the battlefield in the air and then the battlefield on the ground. And on the grounds, yes, Ukraine would like more resources and like more manning, but they've done pretty phenomenal the last 3.5 years on the ground. I just want to highlight this, that Russia controls less of Ukraine today than they did 3 years ago. Objectively, that is pathetic for Russia's ground forces. We're supposed to be in the middle of Russia's big summer offensive. They spent the last 6 months saving up strength to have 60,000, 80,000, 120,000 troops attack Sumy. Like, this is what I've been hearing for months. And they're going nowhere. They're doing nothing. Konstantinivka probably is not going to fall this year, even though it's surrounded on 3 sides. That is how pathetic the Russian ground forces are, which is why Russia is doubling down and doing everything they can to increase missile and drone production to just terrorize cities. Russia's primary objective, of course, is just to have Ukraine surrender. Just say, we're tired of having our cities bombed by missiles and drones. We will capitulate and the Russian military can come in and take Kyiv. That is Russia's fantasy scenario, but the consolation prize that the Russians view with these missile and drone attacks is just depopulation. Just terrorize the people to the point where they just flee. If all the women and children of Ukraine just leave Ukraine, Russia would view that as a victory. They don't care about the people. They don't care about the buildings. They don't care about the culture or the architecture or anything. Russia would be happy nuking all these cities if they could get away with it, wipe it clean, and then bulldoze everything and just rebuild it as a proper Russian colony. Putin is an imperialist. He publicly declared wherever a Russian soldier has stepped at any point in history, that territory rightfully belongs to Russia today. This includes Finland, the Baltics, Poland, Moldova, Ukraine, the Caucasus, and even Central Europe, all the way up to Berlin, because Russian soldiers at one point occupied all this territory. This is what this war has always been about. Let's forget the propaganda. We need to wake up.
Completely agree with you. Okay, I'm going to go to something, show you guys something in a moment, but you made a statement there that makes me ask a question. We know that Finland, Poland, Baltic states coming up with war plans. Some are already building defensive lines, fortifications. Poland came out this last couple of days and says we already have art relocation plans in place. You hear all of this. Do you think there's any chance at all that Russia would move on any other nation?
Yes, that is their stated objective. That's what they would like to do. This has been, the major concern I've been saying the last 3.5 years. As a Westerner, as an American, Ukraine cannot fall, not simply because I care about Ukraine and I want to see them safe and secure, but if Russia takes Ukraine and Russifies the people, they will then force mobilize them into the military and send them to die in the next war. When Poland is invaded, it's not going to be Russians from Moscow on the front lines. It's going to be Ukrainians from Lviv, Ukrainians from Kyiv, Ukrainians from Odessa, forced into the military at gunpoint and then sent to die in the next meat wave attack. This is what the Russian Empire has been doing for centuries. And we can either defeat Russia today, or we can, as NATO, or what remains of NATO once the United States abandons it, they're going to have to fight the Russians when the Russians have absorbed Ukraine's geopolitical position, their natural resources, their people, all of that. So the war is easier today than the war coming in 5 years. But yes, the Russians eventually are going to go for the Baltics or wherever they think they can take territory.
Your answers lead me to more questions. That answer leads
just go for it, Greg.
No, you're doing great. I mean, this is flowing perfectly because your statements are leading me. You started talking about NATO now, and you start talking about America's out. Okay, so you lead me perfectly into this right here. And I believe personally today, I watch Russian media. I watch Ukrainian media. I speak Russian fluently. I'm listening to everything they say. I voice stuff over for you guys. And I think most of the world missed this one today. But this was today. This was in Moscow. This was after Putin met with the Russian foreign minister. He then went to a meeting with Russian military leaders, and he made two statements. I'm not going to play the first statement he made was how great the Oreshnik was and how we've already validated it in military use against the Dnipro region, even though we didn't load it, that it is unstoppable. And we are now in increased serial production of that weapon. And they all just cheer, they give their clap. So he put that out there today, that the Oreshnik, I didn't translate that one. That's what he said. But then he goes and he starts to talk about NATO. I did translate that one. Take a listen to this.
We cannot help but be concerned that a number of Western politicians continue to hatch plans to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia. History has taught them nothing. They continue to send weapons and money to the Kyiv regime today, providing military, technical, and intelligence support, especially as direct participants in the conflict. We also know that at the next NATO summit, it is planned to announce the beginning of a large-scale program to further increase the capabilities of this alliance. To implement it, the military budgets of NATO countries will be increased, and meanwhile, the bloc's members are already spending more on military purposes than all the countries of the world combined. But it's clear who was actually provoking global militarization in the arms race. Justifying their plans, the alliance leadership again repeats about some kind of threat from Russia, about some kind of people and possible invasion of Europe by us. They themselves come up with this horror story and repeat it year after year in order to deceive their own people and extract money from them.
So exactly what we're talking about here. This is just within the last 6 hours or so, he made those statements. Exactly what you're saying.
Putin, you can't have it both ways. Like, he and Medvedev threaten the West every time, and then they make statements of, oh, this is all in their heads. Solyov can say both statements. Solyov can, on Kremlin state TV, threaten to nuke Berlin, threaten to nuke London, and then at the same time say, oh, they're just imagining things. These people just scare their own people in order to increase defense budgets because of the deep states and the military-industrial complex or whatever. Like, Kremlin propaganda is this way. They just flood the zone with everything. They say contradictory statements. They put out contradictory narratives so that people who support Russia can latch on to what resonates with them and then run with it. I mean, people can just cherry pick whatever they want from Russian propaganda news sources and then believe what they want to believe.
You were talking 7-8 minutes ago. You made this statement of, okay, Europe, it's you and Ukraine. America's out. Trump's going to be in chaos. That's what we're going to witness. That's what we're going to see. You can't count on anything. So if that's the case, and we know that Ukraine has developed and has already put into battle test their long-range missiles, and they're good. They're really good. And we know their drone capabilities. We know their ability to do special operations like Spiderweb. And trust me, there are many more cards in the pocket of President Zelenskyy and the Ukrainian army. Just a couple of months ago, I was 50 meters from Zelensky's office. I was going to be able to meet him, but he was in Europe. We were there meeting with some guys in the drone area of the SBU, and they were showing us different things. And I'm not allowed to tell, but I'm here to tell you what I can tell you. You guys haven't seen anything yet. Coming to a battlefield in the fall of 2025, Ukraine is releasing technology that is going to put the world on the side of its head. It's like Operation Spiderweb. These things, Ukraine is preparing for the long term. So if the U.S. really backs out, we don't hear anything on sanctions, then why does Ukraine have to listen to the United States saying, you can't strike that, don't hit them there, don't hit their infrastructure here, but meantime, every day, especially over the last couple of days, the cities of Kremenchuk, which is right in the dead center of Ukraine, it is a key logistical hub. In fact, I will show you guys right now, and I'll use it on the air alarm, which just went off pretty heavy. Let's go to here. The city of Kremenchuk is right here, right there. And this is a key infrastructure city for getting fuel, supplies, you name it, down to the front. It's just a huge hub here. And this has been a major target for, it's not OPSEC, it's common knowledge. Russia's been hitting it very hard. Fuel depots, infrastructure. Now in Kyiv, they're just blowing up people's buildings and killing people. If the U.S. is out, how much longer does Zelenskyy and Ukraine have to listen to American rhetoric of what they can hit or not hit? In lieu of, we all know they have incredible weaponry coming in the pipeline and already active. That's the question. How long do you have to listen?
Trump was stalling. Well, we might be towards the end of this. I mean, Trump has given up. I mean, for the last 4 or 5 months, making these stupid YouTube videos every day about the peace process and meetings in Istanbul, and Zelensky's going to Ankara. Where's Putin? Trump and his phone calls, Putin wishing Trump happy birthday. All of this daily nonsense, it was just about killing time. And yes, I think the United States was saying to the Ukrainian government, don't hit civilian infrastructures, to include oil refineries and oil depots, because then you're not showing you're genuine about peace. It's still happening, even to this week. When Trump is asked by a reporter what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, Trump just, his new standard line is, well, they better make a deal. They better make a deal as long as Ukraine has a country left or whatever. Like there's some deal that Ukraine can make that is not their complete annihilation.
Well,
Russia is not looking to stop anything, and Russia never will. So your question of how much longer is Ukraine going to hold back, if they are holding back, if it's U.S. pressure. Zelenskyy stated he wants to purchase 10 Patriot systems for $15 billion. The Ukrainian government still wants to, for profits to the United States defense industry, purchase weapons and arms, or have Europeans purchase weapons and arms and then transfer it to Ukraine. I don't know if this is officially happening. There's been these limited sales, like I've seen these headlines in the Kyiv Independent, that Trump authorized the sale of $50 million, $30 million. There's been a couple of these very small packages, and I'm guessing this is critical components for U.S.-made systems that Ukraine can't fabricate on their own or get from European partners. So yes, there is the fear that everything will end, everything will be cut off, but at some point, I think Ukraine should be way more aggressive, going after valid military targets that have a civilian label, to just speed this up. This war is not going to stop until Russia economically can no longer wage this war. So Ukraine, in my opinion, should just wave goodbye to the United States and then do whatever they got to do.
Slava Ukraini!
That deserves that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a confirmation on what Mr. Broe just told you, because it was 3 days ago, I believe. I had a long conversation with my partner on the ground there, who's the head of our nonprofit, Zhenya Matsutsa, and we work hand in hand with many units all along the front lines from Sumy all the way around to Kherson, like Jake. And Jake, thank you for so much of your efforts in NAFO and raising money to support Ukraine. I'll just say a big thank you from Ukraine. Many times over there, I've sent you a picture like of your truck. I said, hey, dude, I just ran into your truck. And I will let you guys know also that the soldier that removed Pete Fouché's remains from the battlefield was driving a Jake Broe provided NAFO truck. So, a lot of connections here. From Ukraine, from everybody in the world, thank you for pushing major support to Ukraine. But to support what you're saying, I was talking to Zhenya, and we're prepping. I'm heading back to Ukraine the end of July, and we'll be running aid to the front. He was mad, and he says, Greg, all the commanders, all the leaders, and we deal directly with the commanders. He says, we are done with Donald Trump. We've tried. We held out. We were hopeful. But we're done with that. We're done with that. We understand that we are on our own. And now it's causing a little bit. All right, little inside story here, guys. And Jake, you can look this up later, or you'll see it. I promise you. It's causing a little bit of a strife between Zelenskyy and the military, because the military leadership is asking him to stop it with America. Just stop it. Go. Put all your energy in Europe and other partners. Stop it. He doesn't care about us, and he's not going to help us. And I think the pressure really increased because I was speaking to Zhenya after the G7 meeting in Canada when Trump arrived for a little while, had his emergency, had to jump back on the plane to go raise a flagpole. And I love flagpoles, and I love my flag, and I love my country. But there is a priority for what we do things in the world in which we live. And the Ukrainians were watching it closely. All of that happening while Volodymyr Zelenskyy is in the air heading to meet Donald Trump. And Zelenskyy was going for one purpose, ladies and gentlemen, not to ask for anything. He was going to make a deal, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to present a big deal, because Trump loves the word deal, and to purchase weapons, just like Jake is saying. Additionally, Macron went to France. That ruffled Trump's feathers. You can look at the big picture. He just left. So I was talking to the Ukrainians after that, and they says, okay, this is it. This is it. And right now we have a lot of pressure internally in Kyiv. Not that we are, we want to fight our president or disagree with him. We support our president. He leads us. He does a phenomenal job. But at some point, we're done with America. And that's the attitude on the front right now with the soldiers.
This is what Trump wants. Trump wants Zelenskyy to burn the bridge. And I think Trump is actually upset with himself because with that disastrous meeting in the White House almost 2 months ago, it kind of was done. Trump said Zelenskyy was disrespectful and terrible, and we're not going to help him anymore. Ukraine is on his own. And then Zelenskyy, sat him down at the Vatican, and all of a sudden Trump changed his mind again. Trump tends to just agree with whoever he spoke to last. Like, he doesn't actually have very strong convictions about much. Like, he's very easily persuaded if you just use the terminology and words he likes, such as big deal, stupid. So yes, Zelenskyy is still hopeful that he can re-engage, but he knows that if he is rude or disrespectful in any way, then he gives Trump the ammunition he needs to say, right, we're done. We, the United States, are done with Ukraine because their president is rude and disrespectful and not appreciative and all this nonsense. Zelenskyy, I understand the frustration from the commanders, but Zelenskyy is a politician. He is the nation's top diplomat, and he is never going to, I don't know how he does it after 3.5 years, meeting with all of these world leaders, meeting after meeting. How does he have the energy? How does he have the emotional resilience with everything he's dealing with, all the people who have died, to continue showing up with a smile on his face, saying, we need your help. We appreciate you. Please, please help us.
So they're fighting for their freedom and their life, and this is it. I mean, and people don't understand it.
He's got to figure it out. He's got to figure out a way to diplomatically reach people. He's never going to give up. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. But at the same time, Ukraine should not be allowing themselves to be limited in any way due to the desires or wishes of the Trump administration, because they're on Russia's side. So
Completely agree. I will tell you this, and maybe, got almost 5,000 here watching right now. Thank you. Hope you're enjoying our hour with Jake, and a lot of good conversation here. You talk about, I don't know how he does it. You do realize he doesn't fly out of Kyiv. So every trip he takes, that man gets on a train from Kyiv and goes to Poland, where there have been 2 attempts on his life there in Rzeszów, Poland. And he flies out of Poland. That's where the Ukrainian presidential plane is hangared. There's no flying. So you make, okay, well, Greg, how long does that take from Kyiv to Rzeszów? I'm assuming the presidential train, or when he's on it, gets through the border instantly or with very, very quick stop. 12 hours. 12 hours on a train. Every time you see him make a trip, he's not just walking out of the Oval Office, getting on a chopper and going over to Andrews and heading somewhere. The man is nonstop. And what I really appreciated about it, and I shared this probably about 10 days ago, he was in Kyiv, he and his wife, and they were giving out awards to young Ukrainian heroes. And these were young children, 12, 13, 14, 15, that were excelling in academics and doing special things, and they got a presidential award. And there was probably like 20 of these kids that got this award. And an air alarm went off in Kyiv. And instead of President Zelenskyy looking at the kids and saying, okay, you guys go get in the bunkers, go to the shelters, and I'm sorry, but this is war, this is what we do, and sorry. No, that's not what he did. He took those children to his bunker right below the building, and he ordered them pizza. And instead of having the public, meeting up there with all the cameras, he's in the basement with these kids eating pizza with them. That is a leader. And I don't even know if any other world leader would do that, but that man under so much pressure, it's not like we're having a Zelenskyy love fest here, but I have so much respect for him and his soldiers do too. So please don't misunderstand this. They're just frustrated because they want to really hit everything possible. And right now they're so good with drones. And even Zelenskyy said it the other day, for every occupier that comes in, they have 2 legs. We'll have 2 drones, 1 for each leg. And that's just the way it is. So don't misunderstand. They're just frustrated. They're fighting a war, and there's just no help coming from the United States. But he's a leader.
I'm a big fan. I think his background being a comedian and an actor, he just had a different traditional experience rather than maybe where other politicians come from. The world is changing politically due to social media, but I think most politicians traditionally have either been lawyers or they've been businessmen, and that's a different culture than if you came from entertainment and show business, where you have to connect with people. Like, you have to be able to produce on command, these genuine emotions on screen in order to win an audience. And I think Zelenskyy has always had compassion and understanding for ordinary people. I've never read a biography about the guy. I don't know about his childhood or upbringing, but I just hear bits and pieces about his backstory. And yeah, he's a very compelling person.
Born in the city of Kryvyi Rih. He's a native Russian speaker. And from being in that region of Ukraine, he grew up in a home that was not wealthy. He grew up as a normal kid and went into acting, had a few connections there, then comedic, and he also had some regular roles. And next thing you know, he's moving up in politics a little bit. He has a wonderful wife, wonderful children. He learned Ukrainian, of course, after time, and they were messing with him so much early in the wars. Ukrainian's no good, and now it's really good, of course. Speaks English, and you think about that just for a minute. Young boy from Kryvyi Rih, which, if you've never been to Kryvyi Rih, guys, it's a very industrial city. It's called the Horn. I do a lot of work out of Kryvyi. It's a big city, about 1 million people population in the metro, but it's known for being very long and very narrow. It's over 100 kilometers long. Very big city, very industrial, just like like a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just a gritty town. It's a nice town. I like Kryvyi, but it's just normal town. And here he is. He finds himself sitting in the Oval Office with all the pressure, the full group of reporters, people standing around. I like the zoomed out picture. The vice president, the administration of Trump, he's got Vance pointing at him, yelling at him. He's got Trump hitting him on the shoulder, saying, hold on here, you're starting World War III. And he is responding under all that lights and tenseness in his third language, no interpreter, his third language. And this is where he can handle the cameras. He can handle the pressure. And it's something Gertis and I talked about. This is so cool. When Donald Trump at that meeting looked at him and said, you have no cards. I have the cards. You have no cards. And I'm quoting, you're starting World War III. We're trying to save your country. I'm quoting. Zelenskyy knew at that moment, Jake, that he had Operation Spiderweb in his back pocket, and he never cracked. He knew it, and he just stood there and took it. So no question, phenomenal leader. I'm just ready for, as you say, I would rather just, instead of the stringing along, let's just be done with it and let the world rally and help Ukraine win the war without Donald Trump in America.
Zelensky's never going to close the door. He can't. But I mean, if you don't want to listen to Donald Trump, I mean, nobody else. There's not many world leaders who care what Donald Trump thinks at this point. Nobody takes him serious. Nobody should take him serious. He's not a serious person.
Completely agree with that 100%. Let me just give these shout outs and we'll start winding down with Jake. Dion Gregory, thank you for becoming a crew member. Edward Van Zeeland becoming a crew member. And our community is called the Hope Train, Jake, because we always want to provide hope for people. And even if we disagree on some things, we find out that we agree on a lot more than we disagree on. And we focus on that. Janie DuPont, welcome to becoming a crew member. Alms, crew member. Reminding us many American bases in the Persian Gulf countries. Yes, Alms, and we will be watching it. Johnny Nedregard, Norwegian Quoner 22. Hello, Hope Train. He is the island dweller off of Norway. He lives on an island off of Norway. I don't know how I remember all this stuff, but I do. Dunk on You, one of my mods, $20 super chat and gifting 10 memberships. Petra Olsen, with love to Ukraine from Sweden. Petra is the non-smoking initiative Swedish supporter of Ukraine. Jake, interesting story of this lady named Petra. When the war started, she gave up smoking, and the money that she would use to buy cigarettes, she donates to Ukraine. And it's been going since the war. So she's a legend. F. Oink, they're in Hungary. 20. Putin, your logic is weak. Thank you, F. Oink. And by the way, I love your name as always. Also, Oink gifting 50 memberships. Petra Olsen, Swedish love coming from her wonderful husband. Thank you to your wonderful husband there, Petra Olsen. Jeffrey LaPlante, $25 super chat. Thank you. Slava Ukraina. Edward Ham gifting 5 memberships. Steve Fowler, dollar super chat. Thank you. Al Yorkie, 20 quid. Thank you, Greg and Jake. Slava Ukraina. Blonde Bombsheller, one of my phenomenal mod teams as well, sending 50 gifted memberships. And Steve Bindal, I am enjoying Jake and Greg. This is a fabulous stream. Ukrainian flag. Thank you guys. So thank you guys very, very much. Any thoughts on, and this is just from me now, we will see anything from China on any connections here, whether it's Ukraine, Russia, or do you even think about it? Do you have any thoughts there on Chinese anything? Tariffs, Taiwan affecting, because I saw 100% they're supporting Russia. No question.
Yes and no. I saw this interesting post from Mikhail Khodorkovsky breaking down this news article about how China is poaching Russian scientists. So for anyone of talent, anyone with education in Moscow, if they want out, they can move to Beijing. Beijing is poaching, recruiting top scientists and anybody who wants out of Russia. So that's not something an ally would do, would they?
No, and I haven't heard that. Thank you.
China plays the long game. They think a lot longer. In democratic societies, we have election cycles, and every politician is concerned with their reelection. One of the advantages of autocracy is you don't care about election cycles or what the public thinks. Generally, you want to be supported and well-loved, and Xi's propaganda machine makes sure that he stays genuinely popular. But I think China also has reached the limits of this particular phase. And whenever you hear these TED Talks, like from people like Bill Gates talking about how miraculous China's rise has been, lifting 800 million people out of poverty like the last 30 or 40 years, China can't do this anymore. They can't just rob people from the countryside to continue growing their economy. And nobody in China is having kids. Even with the repeal of the one-child policy, now that they're an industrialized, modern society with urban areas, China is experiencing the same problems that, Ukraine, Russia, South Korea, Japan, Germany has, and that people stopped having kids. So I do think there's a disconnect. I watch a lot of Peter Zion, and he loves giving his analysis about China, and I tend to agree that I don't think she has good information. Like, I don't think Xi's advisors tell him stuff that he doesn't want to hear. Because in a dictatorship, when you give bad news to the dictator, you tend not to have a job anymore. So I think she genuinely thinks that he's close to having the pieces in place.
China or Washington?
Well, Donald Trump himself has autocratic tendencies, and yes, if you give bad news to Trump, he might tell you to go away. Here's the thing, Greg, is we're describing human nature, and this is something that I don't think people reflect on. I think the natural form of government is autocracy. 10,000 years of human history. We've always had kings, monarchs, dictators, potentates, sultans, whatever you want to call the guy at the top. But when you put one person in charge of a country for life, they all tend to turn out the same. The common traits of Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin or Xi or Trump, they tend to feel, act, react, and behave in a similar pattern. So we know what's coming with Trump because he's just going to continue the dictator's playbook. He's going to do the exact same things that every dictator has done in history. We have that advantage in that at the moment, we're still a free society that can resist. There is an organization. In my videos, I keep showing Trump's approval numbers because it really matters. Whether or not military... Today? Well, Trump, I think, had to do this based on his financial base of support. Like, donor money says you need to keep supporting Israel, Trump. But his base hates it. What does the average Republican voter from Oklahoma or Georgia care about Israel? I generally care about Israel because I want to support free and open societies. Israel, I still believe, is a democracy, even though I have serious problems with Benjamin Netanyahu. But MAGA doesn't care about Israel. And yeah, all these influencers are scared of Trump. People like Charlie Kirk 6 months ago was saying, we're never getting involved. No more wars. We're done with wars in the Middle East. And then as soon as Trump says, this is what MAGA is, all of these influencers fall in line. It's fascinating because Elon's not been tweeting at all about Iran. And Elon's influencers are also trying to keep quiet. But this MAGA civil war fractured first with Elon. It's now fracturing again over Israel. Every time this happens, I think Dave Smith, a comedian that I debated on Piers Morgan, is already calling for Trump's impeachment. I think Joe Rogan is also going to turn on Trump in the next 6 months. So we need Trump's popularity and approval to go down, because that will give courage to state and local politicians, police commissioners, governors, judges, and military leaders to tell Trump no when he gives them an illegal order. That is what I'm fighting for currently as an American here in my own country, and I'm trying to support Ukraine because I do think this is all connected. This is World War III, but it's autocracy versus democracy. Do the democratic states want to remain free societies, or are we just going to let a shitty right-wing dictator take control of Germany and France and the UK and the United States and Canada? Like, this is what MAGA in some, the Elon Musk faction is fighting for, supporting all these right-wing parties that don't care about free speech. They only care about their speech. And then once they get into power, it's all about restraining people, constricting, and consolidating power.
I am a conservative. I think I'm older than you a little bit, and grew up in the Cold War and 21 years old running around Russia and learning. Dude, I completely agree with everything you just said.
Conservatism is dead. Conservatism in America doesn't exist anymore. The Republican Party that I lived through my entire life, the party of Mitt Romney and John McCain and even George Bush, like it's dead.
I agree with you.
In my opinion, MAGA, they're fascists. They don't care that the Constitution is being violated. They're comfortable with uniformed active duty Marines being used against American cities on the streets of Los Angeles. Like, they are just pro-fascist, anti-freedom. They want these protests shut down because they don't like seeing their dictator being criticized. I mean, I'm ranting here. You got me going, Greg.
I think we've got him riled up now, guys. We come to the last 5 minutes of the stream.
I'm here.
And I get him fired up.
I'm here to fight, Greg.
I am too, brother.
I'm here to fight.
I am too.
I'm never going to stop until Trump is defeated.
I am too, and we're fighting together, and we come at it from different angles, but we're hitting the same target. Like, I completely agree with you. MAGA's fracturing, and what's so interesting is the MAGA, it's not the movement thereafter. They worship Donald Trump, so whatever he says, it's the Messiah for them. And they move in that direction. It can be anti-war, or we're going to have war. Oh, well, then we're war. Or we're not going to do this, or we're going to do that. You, sir, I mean, Gertis and I were just talking about this an hour ago on the phone. I completely agree with you in this regard, and I don't think we've seen anything yet. Leslie Bo, Xi Jinping being replaced, the country is collapsing. We'll see. Tito Valenzuela, Slava Ukraine, 499 from Honduras. Geroem Slava, do Peramoga, until victory. Send my regards to Zhenya, and thanks, Greg, for keeping us informed. You're very welcome, Tito. Foink at Jake. Message to you from Hungary. It's the classic divide and conquer we're seeing. Thank you, guys.
Authoritarians, dictators, they don't actually offer benefits to the people because they don't believe in them. All they can do is highlight differences and try to divide people. What is happening right now with ICE, masked men in civilian vehicles, just abducting women and children off the streets, going to like elementary school graduations to put children in handcuffs. This is appalling. This is disgusting.
It's evil.
I want reform. Like, first of all, nobody should be illegally crossing the border. I 100% support that position. But at the same time, it is legal to claim asylum and then have an asylum hearing. So Congress needs to pass a law. Congress needs to act, do their job, and reform our immigration system. Maybe we need to increase legal immigration. We need to build a system to identify, process, legitimize the people who are here who are not U.S. citizens. Because people living in the shadows commit crimes. People who live in the shadows are victimized, sex trafficking or whatnot. This has to end, but that's not what Trump wants. That's not what Trump is doing. The system has remained broken and will remain broken because it's an avenue for an authoritarian to get masked men with automatic weapons on the streets of our cities terrorizing people, which is the goal, which is the objective. Nothing would make Trump happier right now than if somebody shot and killed one of these ICE enforcement guys. That would be my natural reaction. The Second Amendment is the law of the land here in the United States. And if a masked man in a civilian car jumps out with an automatic weapon and says, I'm taking your wife and kids, I'm going to shoot that guy because he deserves to get shot. You need to present a warrant. You need to present your badge. You need to tell me what is going on and where you're taking this person at the very least. And that's not what's happening in America right now. So I'm fired up. I'm pissed. Americans need to resist. We need to revolt. Trump's going down. I think we have to survive this to about 2027. But then once we get through the election, hopefully America can recalibrate and we can fix our society.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we have done on June the 23rd, we have got Jake Broe riled up. So thank you. Completely agree with you. And thank you for spending an hour of your time. I know you're extremely busy. And so appreciated all the guys here and look forward to more. Every day, Zelenskyy puts out official pictures and he tells people in media to please, if you're like on, podcast or whatever, because mainstream doesn't do it, please share just so the world continues to know. So I just want to bring it back to this as we close out. Thank you to the mods. Thank you for everyone here. Supporting Ukraine, fighting for what is right. We've talked a lot about the United States, and it rightfully needs to be focused on, and thank you, Jake, for that. But I want to just go here. These are the pictures from today. This is Kyiv. This is people's homes. 10 killed today. And this is officially from Zelenskyy. These are the pictures he says, please share to the world. It's every day. There. That's Kyiv, guys. It never stops. So remember them and thank you. Thank you for supporting what is right. Jake, thank you for all that you do. And I look forward to your next tweet.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on, Greg.
Thank you. Appreciate you all. Hang out 1 minute. I'm going to roll this outro. Guys out there, thank you. Special thank you to the mods. You guys done great. You went crazy today with overtime. Kiwi John coming in, New Zealand 5. Do you think Putin may try to use the same excuse Trump did to Iran, hit Kyiv with a tactical? I don't think so. I think Putin is doing exactly what he wants to do. And he just wants, as Jake said earlier, to terrorize step by step by step. Aussie T from down there, down under Australia. Late again. Good day, Greg. Good day, Jake. And I think we'll end it on that. Thank you, guys. Be blessed and follow Jake. Of course, I'm sure all of you do. If not, over there at Jake Broe on YouTube. Have a good afternoon.
Slava Ukraini!